Hey, welcome everybody to the Mastering Inbound Marketing webinar from OneFire. If you're supposed to be here, then yes, you're in the right place. And if you're not, welcome anyway. My name's Jason Parkinson. I'm the president and CEO here at OneFire.
Hi, I'm Rachel Hensel, and I'm Inbound Specialist here at OneFire.
Just to kind of put some faces to the voices you're going to hear for the next 30 minutes or so here on the webinar. And I'm glad that I've got Rachel with me so that we make an attractive team and it's not just my ugly mug on the screen there. So I'm just going to dive right in and get started. I don't know what your expectations are for the webinar today. You are able to, of course, ask questions in the comments section here in the webinar. So feel free to do that if something comes up, and we'll address some questions at the end as well. I think that we can all agree that the goal of marketing is to find qualified leads, right? But the problem and the challenge is really that traditional outbound marketing bombards customers with all different types of interruptive messages. I mean, it's so much that it's super simple for customers to just start tuning out messages. And not just your message, I'm talking about tuning out all marketing messages. And so you really kind of have to take a step back and ask yourself, why is this? Why are people tuning out the marketing messages today? Why is my advertising not nearly as effective as it used to be? And really, to answer that question, we have to understand how people behave today. And I had an opportunity to attend the HubSpot Inbound Conference in Boston last year, and I wanted to share this video from Gary Vaynerchuk where he starts talking about this very specific thing.
I'm blown away by the world that I live in today. For a lot of you that don't know, I run a 750-person firm called VaynerMedia. I'm leaving here right now after this talk, going to London. We just opened a London office. And what we do is we work with the biggest brands in the world, Under Armour and Chase and Toyota and Pepsi. And the amount of money that is wasted. Just watch what I'm about to show you, and I think we can all agree this is not a 14-year-old girl crowd. Raise your hand if you now, when you watch television, fast forward every single commercial or watch Netflix or HBO Go. When your favorite show airs, you don't watch when it airs, you watch it now on your time. Raise your hands. I just want everybody to look around. Keep them up, especially front row. Look at this. Let me just give you the punchline. Everybody. And how many people here, if they're still using DVR or TiVo, fast forward every single commercial when given the option? And so, even if something crazy like the remote control falls off the bed, every person here grabs this anytime that there is a commercial. Yet, $80 billion is spent by the biggest brands in the world to make 30-second videos of a Jeep going up a hill, or some guy grabbing a beer, or some lady with a baby using some oil. $80 billion. It is completely not practical, it is broken, and it is the reason that 95% of the Fortune 500 biggest brands in the world have declined in market share over the last 2 years.
And so if you think about that, really, the way that we live has changed. That's really at the heart of this, right? And if you look over the last 25 years, people are living differently. Back in 1990, you had a 9-to-5 workday. People were working inside of an office. There was no real internet to speak of. Print and radio, TV, billboards, that's how you got your messaging out. Fast forward 10 years to 2000, you had more of an 8-to-6 workday, and work hours were starting to expand a little bit. People were working differently. They were working more in open cubicles, not so many silos. Email and websites were really the only form of internet that was out there, and people still started to get their information from radio, TV, and billboards, and now Google enters the scene, so people are starting to search for some of that information too. And now let's look at how it is today. Essentially, people are working whenever they want. They're working from their phone. Everything is in the cloud. The internet is essential to our everyday lives, and Google and social media are the primary way that people are getting their information. So, really, the old marketing playbook is broken. Think about it. 86% of people skip TV ads completely. 91% of people are unsubscribing from unsolicited email. 44% of direct mail is never even opened. And you've got 200 million people on the do not call list. How do you get your message heard? Well, in order to do that, you really have to move away from outbound and shift your thinking towards inbound. If you want prospects to listen to the message that you have to say, you have to start marketing with a magnet to draw people in and not beating them over the head with your message like a sledgehammer. And so if you update the marketing playbook based on the way that people are buying today, it's all about getting found online through things like website pages, creating blog articles, social media messages, everything optimized to drive those leads to your website. And then you also have to understand who your buyers are. Personalized marketing, so you're targeting them specifically. You're answering their questions and identifying what their needs are. And you're understanding what content works to pull leads through that sales funnel. So really, it's this marriage of content and context that really makes inbound marketing so stinking effective. And what am I talking about when I say content and context? Well, let's think about it. On the left, you see a bunch of different things that existed back in the day, and now how they exist and how people are expecting to interact with them. So, for example, when I graduated from high school, I used to love listening to the radio. But Rachel here is significantly younger than me, and she had a different experience.
Yeah, when I graduated high school, I thought radio was boring, and I really wanted a more personal experience, so I would listen to things like Spotify and Pandora.
And how about when I had to apply for my first job? I had to prepare a resume. It had to be only one page long. All my references had to be on there too. But when we hired Rachel, it was different.
When I was hired, I only had to apply through LinkedIn. I just had to fill out the forms that were there. I got to add as many organizations that I was a part of or awards or anything like that. I just got to add it and send the link.
So you can see that people have grown to expect things in a different experience now. They're not walking up to a thermostat and changing it. They're instead getting on their phone, opening up the Nest app, and adjusting the temperature in their house. That's how you have to start shifting that thinking so that you've got this content and context that you see over here on the right and not so much this stale, archaic way of doing things that you see on the left. And so if you look at why inbound marketing works as a whole, it's really this philosophy that's based on the truth that consumers are buying differently today than they did 10 to 15 years ago. And if you think about it, 10 years ago, you had a pretty uninformed buyer. Their journey was very linear from start to finish. They always came in after hearing a marketing message and were led through that sales funnel. And the marketing playbook was all about interrupting, advertising and cold calls and things like that. But today, you have a very well-informed buyer. Their buyer's journey is random. It starts with Google. And the marketing playbook is all about thought leadership by creating great content. So how did this transformation take place? There's really three main reasons that consumers are skeptical of brands and why interruptive advertising isn't as effective as it once was. And the first one is what I call the proliferation of media. So back in 1920, you only had one radio station. Now you've got over 15,000. In 1946, America had only 12 broadcast TV stations. Now you've got over 1,700. And if you look at it even in terms of a more new media, at any given time on Facebook, there's over 1,500 stories competing to show up in your newsfeed. So how can people possibly see your message if it just falls into the clutter with everybody else? The second reason, really, that consumers are skeptical of brands and why interruptive advertising isn't nearly as effective is because there's this history of deceptive advertising. So people are used to hearing something and then saying, oh, yeah, but that sounds too good to be true, or what's the catch? In fact, according to a 2012 study, 63% of consumers need to hear company claims 3 to 5 times before they actually believe them. And then the third reason, and I think this is probably one of the more powerful ones, is that technology has now empowered the consumer. Consumers have access to the tools and the info that let them dodge your messaging, and they can seek out the information when they're ready. I mean, think about it. You and all of your customers now have some of the world's most powerful computers in your pocket every day. What makes you think that people are going to be paying attention to your messaging? And so really, if you align your content with your customers' interests, you earn permission to market to them. And so there's some major themes of inbound marketing that I'm going to run through so that you understand exactly what these things are and how they play into inbound. The first one is content creation. Sometimes people will interchangeably use the term inbound marketing and content marketing. They are a little bit different, but they both hinge on this idea of creating great content. And not just good content, but it has to be targeted so that it answers your customers' basic questions and needs, and then you have to share that content far and wide. Life cycle marketing. This is where you have to recognize that people are not all in the same stage of your marketing like they used to be. They go through different stages as they interact with your company, and each stage requires different marketing actions in order for it to be effective. Personalization and context. As you learn more about your leads over time, you can better personalize your messages to their specific needs. A multi-channel presence. Inbound marketing is multi-channel by nature because it really approaches people where they are in the channel where they want to interact with you. You can't just expect to put out your message on TV or just on the radio and have everybody just flock to that to get your information. You have to be everywhere now. And integration, probably one of the more important things. Your publishing and your analytics tools and your staff, they all have to work together like a well-oiled machine so that you can focus on publishing the right content in the right place at the right time. Here at OneFire, we use a tool called HubSpot to do that, which we can talk about here in a little bit. I'm going to turn things over to Rachel. She's going to take you through the inbound methodology.
Thank you. So the inbound methodology really consists of two different parts. The first part is the buyer's journey, which consists of your stages that your customers go through. So a buyer goes through stages during their process for choosing a product or service. First, they go through the awareness stage. They're asking questions like, what is my problem? Next, they move into the consideration stage and they're asking a different question. How am I going to solve my problem? The next stage is the decision stage. Who's going to help me solve my problem? And a customer can come into any one of these stages at any time. So in the awareness stage, we're asking the what is my problem question. So it would be, an example would be, I have a sore throat, fever, and I'm itchy all over. What's wrong with me? Then we move into the consideration stage where we're asking, how am I going to solve my problem? This is where we're doing a little more research and we figure out, aha, I have strep throat. What are my options for relieving or curing my symptoms? In the decision stage. This is where we're doing research to figure out what our options are. I can see a primary care doctor, ER, go to the ER, see a nurse or clinic, and we figure out the ER costs more money, but it's the fastest. So most companies are very good at marketing in the decision stage. We're very good at reaching customers here and saying, here, I can solve your problem. Look at me, I've got the best option for you. But we're missing out on opportunities, and there's a lot of them, in the awareness and the consideration stages. The second part of the inbound methodology is the inbound funnel, which includes the stages that your marketing needs to go through. So these stages include attract, convert, close, and delight. So first, we start attracting strangers into visitors. We do this through blogs, keywords, and social publishing. Our next stage, we are converting our visitors into leads, and we do this by capturing their information through forms, calls to action, and landing pages. Our next stage, we're wanting to close those leads into customers. We do this through customer relationship management software, nurturing email, and automated workflows. Our last stage is we're wanting to delight those customers into promoters. We do this through surveys, smart content, and social monitoring. Once we've delighted our customers into promoters, those promoters will be the ones to bring in more strangers into our inbound funnel.
Thanks, Rachel. I'll tell you, one of the things that I think is really important about this is looking at the different marketing actions that happen across this entire funnel, right? There's different actions that have to happen in the attract stage versus what happens in the convert stage, the close stage, and the delight stage. And each one of those actions is specifically targeting the stage of the journey that those buyers are in. So it's really ideal to be able to identify what's going to work best and then to perform those actions, which is really the process that we've taken here with the inbound funnel. So why is inbound so effective? Really, you have to remember that your customers are just like you, right? Think about the things that you do or don't do. Think about what you respond to. Think about if your business is running television ads on broadcast TV, next time the commercials come on TV, what are you doing? Pay attention. Are you on your phone? Are you in the kitchen? Are you fast forwarding? That's just one example. You have to remember that inbound is effective because you have to remember that your customers are human. They're just like you. I want to thank you so much for attending the webinar today. This is just the first in a series. We would love to connect with you further. And I know we have a little bit of time for a couple questions. So Rachel, do you want to take a couple questions that have been posed?
Yeah, so we have a question from Jim in Champaign. And his question is, how do you know if inbound is going to be successful in your company?
How do you know if inbound is going to be successful? It's a good question. I think before you start inbound, you have to think about your product and your service and identify if it's a good fit for an inbound strategy. So if the product and service that you have requires some explanation or some in-depth, research that people have to do before they buy, inbound is a great fit. If you have a product or service where the average lifetime value of your customer is greater than $500, also would be a really good fit for an inbound strategy. The important thing with inbound is you want to be able to show that return on investment, because creating content takes a lot of time. It can take dollars and resources. You just have to make sure that it's going to be a good fit for your business. I will say that you can't do inbound on a short-term basis. You can't find out if it's going to work for you within just 1 or 2 months of doing it. It really takes a good 6 or 7 months before you start seeing traction and more SEO results and more leads coming into your website. So Jim, hopefully that helps. I would just suggest, taking a look at your products and services. And if you want to talk further about it, we'd be more than happy to do that with you offline too.
Here we have another question from Ashley in Peoria. And her question is, how do you balance all the work that goes along with inbound if you are a one-person marketing department? You know what?
We hear this question all the time, Ashley. If you're a one-person marketing department, there is so much that's expected of you. And when you start thinking about inbound and the need to blog and create content offers like ebooks and checklists and things, and then add on top of that, you've got to send out email for nurturing, and you've got to segment your lists and all of those different things. It is a lot of work. It can be done with a 1 or 2 person marketing department. The way that we get it done here at OneFire for ourselves, outside of us having a great content team, we use HubSpot. And HubSpot is a pretty solid marketing automation platform that will handle many of those tasks for you kind of automatically. The real challenge becomes creating all of that content and kind of managing it. And that's where companies like us here at OneFire, we have an entire department and division that's just dedicated to helping customers succeed with inbound marketing. So we'd be more than happy to talk with you a little bit more offline about that too. I don't really want this to be a sales pitch today, but just want to let you know that we do have all of those services available that we can help you with too. So in the sake of time, I told you I wanted to get you out of here within about 30 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and just wrap up. Feel free to contact us if you've got any questions. You can hit us up right on our website, inbound.onefire.com, or Rachel and I are more than happy to jump on the phone with you or whatever you may need as well. So thank you so much for taking the time today for the webinar, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.